I had high school friends, college friends, and corporate friends. I had a big social life. And in hindsight, like, yeah, I did well, but I wasn't even close to scratching my true potential. So that regret led me to two things. I have these flashcards here. One of them is the top 5 regrets of the dying. I used to carry these around in my pocket everywhere. Now I just leave them here in my office. But the top 5 regrets of the dying is a book by a woman named Brazie from Australia. And that was my first book I picked up after the car accident. And it basically talks about how she worked in 8 years with terminally ill patients, and she heard the patterns of regret. I wish. And the number one regret of the dying is I wish I had lived a life true to myself and not what others expected of me. What you do have to do is focus on the fundamentals. And the fundamentals are grit. The fundamentals are perseverance. The fundamentals are work ethic. The fundamentals are humility, making sure you get away from the wrong people and get around the right people. It's really easy to be a big fish in a small pond. That was something I fell victim to for sure.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to another edition of the Kronos Group Podcast. I am your host, Jerry Brazie. I have today with me a great guest, Alan Lazaros. And let me tell you about him. He is the co-founder of Next Level University. That's not a college. It's a daily podcast and a coaching platform focused on helping people grow health, wealth, relationships, all the things that we talk about on this podcast. They put in over 2,300 episodes, which is a crazy number, reached listeners in 180 countries, and spent the last decade talking about stuff most people try to avoid, like identity and discipline, self-awareness, your money, habits, the uncomfortable work of actually trying to level up your life, living in the uncomfortable. This isn't a surface level motivation. It's more about structured growth. And Alan has a story behind it because he lost his dad when he was 2 years old to a car accident. And then at 26 years old, he almost died in one himself. So that moment forced him to stop chasing and start asking questions. And so from the outside, things looked like he was doing well, making money, building momentum. And inside, he was carrying all of that. So we're going to talk about that. That accident seemed to crack things open for him. And that's what led to the work that he is doing now. So today we're going to talk to him about external success, what it feels like internally when you're struggling, and why so many driven people feel off when they're winning. So with that said, looking forward to this conversation. Alan, welcome to the podcast. Appreciate you coming on.
Jerry, great intro. Appreciate you having me. First thing I want to say to anyone out there watching or listening is it's a noisy world. The 21st century has a lot of content out there. I don't take it lightly that you're listening to me. I don't take it lightly that you invited me on this platform. I take it very seriously because I think what you pay attention to is dictating a large part of your future. So thank you, Jerry, for having me. And let's rock and roll.
Absolutely. Let's start with kind of give the listener an idea of your background prior to what brought you to the university and the things that you're doing in that space. And let's tell them that background that I alluded to a little bit. Give us an idea how you ended up where you are.
Yeah, so I'll try to give you the short version. I'm trying to condense 37 years into just a few minutes here. The shortest version I can give you, there's 3 main things in my life that in hindsight were like absolutely pivotal. The first one, I was born in 1988 in Massachusetts, born and raised. I had a birth father named John McCorkle. He was part of a big sort of Irish Catholic family born and raised in Massachusetts. It was Jim, Joe, John, Jane, Joan, Jeanette. 6 kids, all J. And in 1991, when I was almost 3, my sister was almost 6, and my mother was 31, he died in a car suddenly. Very suddenly, very tragic, very unexpected. Harder on my mom and sister than me, but like immediately just adversity. My mom was a stay-at-home mom at that time. I had a stepfather named Steve Lazaros that came into my life from 1992 to the early 2000s. So from when I was 3 to 14. He worked for a company called AGFA. They did hospital computers during the dot-com bubble in New England. So they did very well. And in the 90s, if you recall, the dot-com bubble was wild economic boom times, particularly in the US, but obviously globally. And so we went from from the outside in, it looked like we were rich and that kind of thing, doing very well. From the inside out, my mom and stepdad did not get along, and that's a polite way to put it. 14 hits, hardest year of my life. Didn't know that at the time. It's only in hindsight that I realized this. So I'm 14 years old. Stepdad leaves, takes his entire extended family with him, also takes 95% of the income. So I go from sort of boats and ski trips, and we had a yacht and an apartment building, to now my mom trades in our BMW for a little Honda Civic. We don't have cable. I get free lunch at school now because our income is so low, and I don't know how I'm going to go to college because the college I want to go to is WPI, Worcester Polytechnic Institute. It's like a mini MIT in Massachusetts, and it's 50 grand a year. This is back then. So I go from I hope I get in, very hard school to get into, to even if I do get in, I can't go. He gets the house. No, he gets the apartment building and the yacht. We get the house and the dog. How do we keep the house in the family type of thing? No dad, no trust fund, no generational wealth. What am I going to do? The other piece of this that I didn't realize at the time that I think is important for the narrative here is he took his entire extended family with him, and I never saw or spoke to a single one of them since. Same year, my mom gets in a fight with my Aunt Sandy. We get ostracized from my mom's side of the family. I've only seen or spoken to 2 human beings from that side of the family. And we don't associate much with the McCorkles anymore because we're kind of the Lazaroses, quote unquote. So I kind of lost 3 families by the time I'm 14. Now, in hindsight, there's 4 trauma responses. There's fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Fawn is appease. So I became this sort of social chameleon, fit in, fit in, fit in. Don't lose any more friends and family. Don't lose any more friends and family. Don't lose any more friends and family. But behind the scenes, when no one was around, it was fight. It was aim higher, work harder, get smarter. Aim higher, work harder, get smarter, prove myself, right? And so I got straight A's through all of high school. I got into WPI. I got all the scholarships and financial aid that I possibly could. I got what's called the President's Award signed behind me by George W. Bush. And I was able to go. That was my dream. Computer engineering degree, graduate with high distinction, master's in business, off to the races. So I did the preschool, kindergarten, elementary school, middle school, high school, college, corporate. I did that, and I did that very well. I basically got to the point where I was a global 1% earner in my early 20s. I paid off 84 grand worth of college debt in a single year. I had $150,000 in a Vanguard account because I thought after my stepdad left that wealth was the answer, because that's what caused me so much pain. And it was all in different tech stocks and that kind of thing. So I was doing very well. That's when I got in my car accident. That's what you mentioned or alluded to. So I'm 26 years old at this point. And at this point, I knew how to go without. Like when my stepdad left, we didn't really have much. So I was making almost 200 grand a year working for a company called Cognex. They sold industrial automation equipment into manufacturing facilities. You know Cognex? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Machine vision equipment, the eyes of robotics and automation. I did Vermont, Connecticut, and Western Massachusetts as an outside sales engineer. You know, big companies were my customers like GE, Kimberly-Clark, Covidien, these kinds of things. Ben & Jerry's was one of them. But ultimately, I did very well, and I didn't need much. My rent was $500. I didn't have a mortgage. I didn't have kids. My car I bought with $5 grand cash, 2004 Volkswagen Passat. I was used to going without, so I just invested all my money. 2004 Volkswagen Passat ended up saving my life. So I'm up in New Hampshire with one of the people that came back from my mom's side, second cousin named Dan. We get in a head-on collision with another lift-kitted pickup truck. My fault. I'm supposed to yield, but I don't. The yield sign was covered by the snowbanks back then, bad winter in 2015. And it was 30 miles an hour, both cars completely totaled. This is not a fender bender. This was intense. The lift kit pickup truck went up and over my car. Both cars totaled. Fortunately, no one was killed because it would have been my fault. That was 11 years ago. And this was the second chance my dad never got. And it was my mistake. And fortunately, no one was killed. And he was killed in the car at 28. And he didn't have a second chance. So for me, this was sort of the ultimate wake-up call. Mm-hmm. And that's when I 180'd my life. That's when I found personal growth, personal development, and self-improvement. And that's really when I decided, okay, I'm chasing external success. And that's where a lot of people start. And that's great. I achieved the quote unquote American dream, but I got to turn this thing around, and I got to work on myself. And then, so 11 years ago, I found personal growth, personal development, and self-improvement. I started a company called Alan Lazaros LLC, what you'll never learn in school, but desperately need to know, because I was a straight A student. So it was like, where was all this habits and goal setting and personal development and vulnerability, courage and humility and virtue and character? And where was all this stuff? Mindset, self-belief, and self-worth. Why didn't we learn any of this? Productivity. Why didn't we learn about productivity? Why didn't we take entrepreneurship classes? Why? It bothered me to my core. It still does. So I still live that same life. Now we have as you mentioned, global top 100 show, 23-person team, 26 one-on-one clients right now, 126 paying clients as a company, and then we produce 86 podcasts now. So my goal was to bring personal development to the masses in any way I possibly could, because I believe that personal development should be taught when we're kids.
So in that environment, so you're 26 years old, you have the accident. You think you're on the right track, things are going well. Your dad had the accident when you were little, and then you do that. In your head, was it an instantaneous type thing? And I guess what I'm asking is, how do you get to the point where you're starting to look at that personal development and all that? Was it a course of months, or was it like I wake up from the accident and all of a sudden I have this different outlook on life? I guess what I'm trying to get at is I want people to understand sometimes these things aren't light bulb moments and other times they are.
Yeah. I think it was what's referred to as an ego death. And what I mean by that is you have to tear down the old version of you before you grow the new one. And I had a ton of regret. Where it started was more regret. And what I mean by that, because people are always like, well, what do you mean? You were so good, you straight A's and all this stuff. Listen, I wasn't putting it all on the court at all. Like, I rested on talent, honestly. And, straight A's is awesome, but like, school always came really easy to me. So the amount of effort that I put into being the best version of myself was minimal compared to now. And I wasn't reaching my full potential. So I had a lot of regret about that. And anyone who feels gifted, you're not really allowed to talk about it because everyone thinks you're a pretentious butthead. But like, when you are someone who things come very naturally to, you don't have to try that hard to be in the top percentage. And you do. When I faced mortality, that was my biggest regret, is like, I didn't do all I could. How dare I not develop my gifts, and how dare I not, change the world? And that's just a unique to me thing, it turns out. I've been coaching now for 11 years, and some people do have that. They have that like calling thing that pulls them out of bed, like that whisper of like, you're better than this. What the hell are we doing here? I had high school friends and college friends and corporate friends. I had a big social life. And in hindsight, like, yeah, I did well, but I wasn't even close to scratching my true potential. So that regret led me to two things. I have these flashcards here. One of them is the top 5 regrets of the dying. These are old, tattered. I used to carry these around in my pocket everywhere. Now I just leave them here in my office. But the top 5 regrets of the dying is a book by a woman named Bronnie Ware from Australia. And that was the first book I picked up after the car accident. She worked in hospice for 8 years. I've actually since gotten to interview her, and she has a TED Talk too. I highly recommend it. And it basically talks about how she worked in 8 years with terminally ill patients, and she heard the patterns of regret. I wish. And the number one regret of the dying is, I wish I had lived a life true to myself and not what others expected of me. Mm-hmm. And I think that for me, that was a really big one. And that's why I decided to go all in on my thing. Because the truth of the matter is, I tell this to my business partner all the time. I said, we're selling kale outside a candy store. Like, we're trying to sell personal development. You mentioned it in the intro. Like, we're talking about these things that a lot of people avoid. And so, yeah, it was regret and pain. And then that brought me and opened me up to that book. And then I saw Tony Robbins' TED Talk. Now, again, whether you like Tony or not, the TED Talk's magnificent. And the TED Talk was why you do what you do. And if you've never listened to it, you should. It's life-changing, I think. And that was just sort of my exposure into the personal development, self-improvement, and personal growth world. And then when you go down that rabbit hole of the Stephen Coveys and the Augmentinos and the Zig Ziglars and the Jim Rohns, and you eventually realize that a lot of that is, horse crap as well. Although some of it is very, very good. And so I decided to dedicate my life to reaching my full potential and helping others do the same. And that's still what I'm doing to this day. And I'm trying to find a way to do it better every quarter, every year.
When I was a kid, I come from abject poverty and was living with hookers and heroin addicts when I was 17 years old. So I come from a very different background than you. But for me, the drive for success was more of one of survival. And then once I found it, I started my first company at 28 years old. I've had 10,000 employees across hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. And in doing that, I've never hired somebody looking at how their grades were or how well they did. I've always looked for, a common sense and a street smarts. Now, again, because that's kind of my background, that's the way that I always looked at it. If I could find somebody educated that had common sense and street smarts, now you really had something powerful. Sure. But the education for the sake of education, to me, never seemed to pan out as well as I can train somebody who's got a little bit of common sense and some street smarts, and I can layer on some education on top of that. So with your educational background, then what you just covered, what would your response be to somebody out there that thinks that I just got to keep getting those straight A's. I got to just keep getting that education, but I'm going to go be an entrepreneur?
Yeah. Well, my business partner, and I grew up very adverse too, not quite what you said there, but like, it was definitely a lot of, I call it the boulevard of broken dreams playfully. It was not good. You've heard of an ACE score, adverse childhood experiences?
I'm sorry?
An ACE score, ACE, adverse childhood experiences? Yeah.
Yes.
So an ACE score, if you have a high ACE score, which you and I obviously do, you tend to statistically face early mortality. There's like a higher probability of statistical mortality at a young age. And that car accident tracks with that, my car accident. But to answer your question about that, my business partner, he and I both grew up without fathers. He was raised by his mom and his Mima. Very, very start from the bottom in the US, bootstrapped his way to where he is. And same with me when my stepdad left. So I was raised by my mom and my sisters. The thing that I find fascinating is Kevin is one of the most successful people that I ever knew growing up, because we knew each other in middle school and we knew each other in high school. And we weren't close by any means until our mid-20s. He had suicidal ideation in his mid-20s, didn't like his life, and he had a 6-figure job too. And I had my car accident. We had our quarter life crises at the same time, and we sort of found each other in a hopeless place, so to speak, and rebuilt our lives and into what it is now at Next Level University. But to answer your question regarding someone who, first of all, education is important. You need to be able to make effective decisions. You have to understand yourself, others, and the world. And you have to be extremely gritty, and you have to be ridiculously good at implementation. And I've found it really fascinating how hard it is to find both of those. So I'm not just talking. I track this every day. I call it my magic number, 6,852 coaching sessions. These are deep one-on-one coaching sessions with people all over the world, all different backgrounds, all different countries, all different sexes, all different industries. And you find these patterns that become obvious. And Kevin is not someone you would have bet on. He's not. But the dude has so much grit. And I can't bet on someone without grit. I just can't. If you want to do this 4-hour work week crap, like I coached a 27-year-old. I think she's 27 now. She was 26. She said, well, Alan, I don't really want to trade my time for money. And I was like, you're 26.
Right.
Everyone trades their time for, like, what is happening to the world? So I'm old school. I'm 37. I know I look young, but this whole 21st century mindset of 4-hour work week stuff is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. It's insane.
I've said forever, everybody that listens to this is going to hear this now for the 500th time. I say this on every podcast that I go on, that 80+% of everything that I see on the internet. That's why I love what you just said, particularly coming from a younger guy like you. 80% of what I see as an experienced entrepreneur on the internet relative to success in life or success in business is just flat out wrong. Because to your point, there's people who think that if you're not driving a Lamborghini, working 4 minutes a day from the south of France, on a yacht, then you're doing something wrong. And these influencers have so corrupted the minds of the young people relative to what it takes to find success. Yes, there are unicorns, but those unicorns are few and far between. And so I'm happy to hear you say that it takes that grind and that 12 to 15 hour days. And let me get your response to this one, since you do this as much as you do. It's been my observation that the most successful people on the internet relative to their net worth, let's say the guys that are worth hundreds of millions and billions of dollars, who came from nothing but made something themselves, now they're in their 50s and their 60s. The advice they give about go do what you love and, don't work more than this number of hours a day and all this, I'm like, wait. I know this isn't where you came from. And yet you're the one saying that you need to go, find yourself and safe spaces and all of this other things that don't lend themselves to being a successful entrepreneur. What would your take be on that?
Exactly. I am so similar to you. I am so frustrated with people. So in finance, there's a concept called the accumulation phase and the distribution phase. I coach a couple people very high up in finance. And I've always understood finance. I've always been a big math guy, compound effect, all that stuff. For anyone who's not, though, this simple thing will make this clear. The accumulation phase is the building of the nest egg. Trading your time for money and investing earn more, spend less, invest the difference. Earn more, spend less, invest the difference. Earn more, spend less, invest the difference. And when you do that for 30 years straight and increase your income over time without your crazy extravagant lifestyle, you then transition to the distribution phase, which is where you start to give back and you start to, turn labor into leadership and leadership into ownership. Now you're an owner and now you make money off your money. But the problem is these people, and I heard Oprah say this once, and I respect Oprah deeply. I do. Like, she's obviously been a huge net positive in the world. But I heard her say this once and it drove me nuts. She said, someone asked, like, if you could go back and talk to your younger self, what would you say? She said, I wouldn't have worried so much. It's all going to work out. And I was like, Oprah, the reason you're Oprah is because you worried. Mm-hmm. Like, someone in college eating Cheetos on a couch is going to be hearing that saying, I guess I shouldn't worry. Listen, life is coming for you. Automation, robotics, AI, life is coming for you. If you're not retooling right now, you're in so much trouble. You might put it all on the court and still lose, actually. And that's called humility. You are not a gift and everything's great. Like, I feel gifted and I still haven't taken a day off in 11 years. You don't have to be as intense as me, but you have to work in proportion to your goals. And yes, you can work smart, but you have to work hard first. This whole work smart, not hard thing, the only time you work smart is after beating your head against the wall for 12 times in a row. Mm-hmm. It's called failing forward, and eventually you get frustrated enough to actually innovate. And you don't start out with work smart. No, you go work hard, nothing works, and then you figure out eventually the combination to the lock, and eventually it opens, and then you go give advice that's terrible to people when you're already 55 and a multimillionaire. Right. I can't have it. I think young people need to hear what it really takes. I respect what you're saying right now, because I told Kevin and I promised ourselves, because now we're winning. We're 9 years in. We're not anything crazy, but it's not what it was. Mm-hmm. It gets a lot easier later. And I don't mean easier in the sense that we don't still work and we're still on it. And I think in some ways success makes life harder because you have more responsibility and more team and more payroll. However, I told Kevin, we need to promise ourselves right now that when we're 50 and we spent 25 years building this thing, that we don't say, don't worry so much. Because the reason we got here is because we were always concerned about the next quarter and the next year and the next goal and the next client and how to improve and how to get better. Like, the world's going to improve with or without you. And if you're not improving, you're falling behind.
You said something, I agree with every word of that. And you said something, and again, great example using Oprah, because that's exactly what I'm talking about, right? Oprah comes from absolutely nothing. And I guarantee you that girl worked harder than anybody on the planet. And then they get on the other side of it and they're like, don't worry so much. And it's just madness. I don't think they're lying. I think they just, they live in a bubble and they've forgotten where they come from. And they're trying to say things that are going to resonate with people, because you got to put in 12, 15-hour days doesn't resonate. I learned this lesson. I've worked with hundreds of entrepreneurs. I know, hundreds of millionaires that did it from the ground up. And the one thing that you said, where you don't have to work like you do. You don't have to be as intense as you do. And I'll just, honestly, I used to say that same thing all of the time. And I quit saying it. Here's why I quit saying it. Because I talk to young entrepreneurs, young men entrepreneurs in particular, coming straight out of high school, or straight out of college. They want to go become an entrepreneur. They want to get into business. And I said, you got to assume you have a maniac like me on the other side competing with you. So whatever you're not willing to, one of my biggest customers, they've spent $25 million with me over the last 25 odd years, is because I was relatively new startup and I was their third call on a Saturday by the CEO, who was looking for a delivery to be done in the transportation business for himself, not his company. So he went and started looking up numbers. And the first two people didn't call, and didn't answer. And the third person on a Saturday afternoon answered. That was me. And so I took care of this personal thing he needed done. And then, of course, I asked him, what else do you do? And that customer has spent $1 million plus, $25 million over the last 25 years with me, because I answered that phone on Saturday. Today you hear you got to have me time, and you got to find yourself, and you got to make sure you break off, and all of this other stuff, particularly in the early phases. And I'm like, oh, crazy. Because you're going to have maniacs like me out there pushing to grow their business to be successful. And so in that context, I think people got to be maniacs. They want to do it success. It's already hard enough trying to be an entrepreneur. The odds are already against you that if you think you can slack off for 2 seconds,
it's the wrong mindset. It's the like when I say I haven't taken a day off in 11 years, people are like, that's so bad for you. And I said, no, it's bad for you. Sometimes it's an hour a day. Sometimes it's 3 hours. Sometimes it's 15 hours. The majority, it's 10 to 12. And I'm telling you, I never take my eye off the ball. You can't take your eye off it that long as an entrepreneur. Like if you're the founder of the company, particularly in the first decade, you really can't ever not be on the gas, at least to some extent. If you're coasting, you're dying. And I'm with you. I think the world has gotten a little bit, maybe entitled is and again, it depends where you live, right? So in the US, I'll speak for the US.
That's the right term.
Entitlement. Entitlement means you think you deserve something by default. There's two types of people I never work with. I'll give you this. Number one is spoiled brats. People who want big rewards for minimal effort. Take care. Good luck. There's the door. Enjoy your life. Okay. And by the way, those people are usually people who have generational wealth. I didn't have any generational wealth, right? There was no trust fund, no dad. I looked into my future and I panicked. Okay. That's fine. That ended up being a huge superpower later. But I know, and I don't know what the stat is on this, but it's something like when all the baby boomers do pass away, there's something crazy like 50 million new millionaires are going to happen within the next like couple decades, not new wealth, generational wealth. And it has been wild for me to see how few people understand generational wealth. And I'm not trying to be mean, but I coach a lot of people all over the world, right? And they see their peers on Instagram with a Porsche. And the woman in the Porsche is 24. And she didn't earn that. She didn't do anything to earn that. But she's not going to come out and say, hey, by the way, my parents pay for this, right? So, or I inherited it. No one tells you that. So you can't really compare. It used to be keeping up with the Joneses. Now it's keeping up with someone else's. You're comparing your reality to someone else's fake, inflated, catered content on the internet. I was a fitness model, fitness competitor, fitness coach. This is a metaphor. 43 photo shoots. Even the models don't look like that. I've modeled with some models. Even they are airbrushing. None of it is real.
Right.
Like you said, 80% of it, it's safe to say, is fake or inflated. And now that you know that, you don't have to play into it anymore. What you do have to do is focus on the fundamentals. And the fundamentals are grit. The fundamentals are perseverance. The fundamentals are work ethic. The fundamentals are humility, making sure you get away from the wrong people and get around the right people. It's really easy to be a big fish in a small pond. That was something I fell victim to for sure. Like, I was really good at basketball in the small town that I grew up in. But then I went to Venice and got reverse dunked on by someone in sandals. And I realized I'm not that good at basketball. Yeah, exactly. And that's called perspective, right? Exactly. He played D1 at UConn. A little different, right?
Yeah.
So I think that humble pie needs to be eaten every single day, but it's not going to be eaten if you're constantly trying to pad your self-esteem.
Yeah, you used a word there that I want to flesh out a little bit, and that is perspective. I think that perspective is a superpower. When my success, if you were to rate it, again, on the streets at 17, started my business at 28, was a millionaire at 33, have never looked back. I was able to keep my perspective, not only on what I was doing, but then on what everyone else was doing. Back to your point about the entitled generations that we have today. When I was a kid in the 70s, 90% of the planet lived in poverty. Now it's about 10%. And the rich people, when I was a kid in the 70s, had the things that I was jealous of, the things that made them rich are the things that everyone has today. 2 televisions, 1 car or more, a phone. And I mean a landline phone in my day. I didn't have a phone when I was a kid, right? This is in Portland, Oregon in the 70s. A phone, multiple air conditioning. I didn't have air conditioning until I was 30 years old, right? So those sorts of things lend itself. Take that and extrapolate it across all of life, whatever you're trying to do. Perspective is key. My day's so long. I don't have time for these things. My life is so difficult. The pain and the sacrifice and the stress is on top of me and what I'm going to do. And it's like, hey, a little bit of perspective. In another part of the world, there's people dying who would kill, that are burning dung, in their little hut just to eat food, and they're dying a lot faster than you are. Let's step back for a second with your $1,000 iPhone and have a little bit of perspective, because if you do, from that, I think comes a superpower.
Agreed. Jerry, I tell people this that I work with whenever they start to, and I don't want to invalidate people's suffering, but I also need to, like I said, you need to go watch Slumdog Millionaire.
Yeah.
You need to go watch Hotel Rwanda. You need to go, like, I have some people in book club from Nigeria. I get to talk to people all over the world. Like, you need the perspective piece. There's 195 countries. All right. I don't want to come off like a dick, but I have to be honest. Almost no one even knows this. There's 8 billion people on planet Earth, not 7. Everyone still says 7. It's been 8 for a while now. And by the way, if we're rounding up, it's been 8 for even longer. 8 billion people on planet Earth, 195 countries. Okay. Again, no one knows this. The US is the largest economy on planet Earth. Not no one, but a lot of people don't know that. They're like, what about China? It's not even close. Guys, it's not even close. The nominal GDP for 2026 in the US is $96K a year per capita. The next closest is way low. India is the largest country in population, 1.4 billion people. China is 1 billion. It's like 1.1. The largest economies go the US, 30 trillion GDP, 30 trillion. The next closest is 20. Okay. The point that I'm making is that people in the US have no perspective, and it pisses me off. It's so bothersome. And I understand why. Because all your friends appear to be popping bottles of models on Instagram. It's a giant lie. The best part about my life is I coach individuals and I see their Instagram and their bank accounts. I get to see the behind the scenes and the front of the scenes, and they're never the same.
Right.
I call it the inverse 10 law. If you're flaunting success on the internet, you are 1/10 as successful as everyone thinks.
Yeah.
If you're not flaunting success on the internet, you're probably 10 times more successful than anyone thinks.
Yeah.
And that's the inverse 10 law. And it's true. I have one mentor of mine who is wildly successful, top 1% of 1% of 1%. And he's not on Instagram. He hates social media, right? But he was the CEO of a $1 billion robotics company. So, and he's on boards of a bunch of different companies. The point that I'm making, though, is the 21st century has become candy of the mind. It's candy of the mind. I think the more boring the content, the more accurate it is. And I think that's the unfortunate truth about marketing, is the flashier stuff wins.
Yeah.
And Next Level University is fundamentals. And Kevin and I talk about this all the time. It's like, I don't want to flash my stuff. That's not why I got into this. I'm not trying to puff a cigar on my Porsche on the beach to get a reel so I can get more listens. Like, I just want to do the fundamentals on repeat forever. And unfortunately, it's very hard to compete with people who do that.
Yeah. To your point, I'll just egotistically, I suppose I'll talk about myself for 1 second, but I'll say that all I talk about is the most value I can give you as an entrepreneur that's bought and sold a dozen businesses and done almost $500 million in revenue. The best advice I can give you comes from the fact that I have lost fortunes multiple times, right? The best advice is going to come from the problem is the losing side doesn't resonate as well. But I'm like, no, you don't understand. All of the value is in losing, the 7-figure mistakes. I bought a company in 2012 that my peer group that I was a part of for 25 years told me not to do, but man, I was making $250,000 a month and life was going good and everything was great. And I knew everything. And I come from the street, like I said, and I bought that stupid company and it cost me $6 million in 6 years of my life. Right. And everyone told me not to, but I said I could fix it. I'll figure out the financials after I buy it. I don't have to do it before. Yeah. I mean, I'm talking.
It's called hubris.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, it turned out, just as an aside, as it turned out, not only did that end up costing me $6 million in 6 years of my life, but upon review, upon audit, I was making $250,000 a month, and I should have been making about $310,000 a month. But again, hubris, to your point, right? Look at me, look what I've done. It's this is crazy money for a kid from the street, but my head got in the way. And so the value of what I bring to the table is so many of those wars that I've been through, right, to help people avert them. But they want to hear the flashy cars. They want to hear, 2007, I bought $400,000 worth of cars. They want to hear that story. They don't want to hear the story. Wait. But it all crashed out and I lost everything, to your point. So there's a question in here, believe it or not. The mentality for that, where's that come from? Or how do we avoid that mentality? That one that says, I just want to hear the neat things, the impressive things, the things that I want to get to, not the hard lessons learned so I can avoid them and maybe jumpstart my experience.
Yeah, I think it comes down to this. You have to opt out of the status game. And this is the way that I frame it with my clients is I say we all have to live in two worlds. One of them is the real world. This is truth. This is accuracy. This is how you feel when you wake up in the morning. This one over here is the social world. This is your Instagram account. The best way to describe it is this one, the social world, is the wedding photos. The real world is the actual marriage.
Yeah, good. I like that.
Which one do you live in? Now, we all have to live in both because branding and marketing matters. But the syntax has to be right. It has to be real world first, social world second. It has to be how you feel about yourself when you're by yourself first, success externally and your reputation second. And I think particularly for young men, and I understand why, I do. I was that way a bit as well. Not fully, but a bit. I called it my F-off phase, where I was like just the man. And I was, high rises and girls and all the nonsense. And it was when I was the least fulfilled inside and the least successful in real life, I was putting on the best show. And that's what you have to learn is that it's a show. From what I've found because of coaching, thank goodness with coaching, like you learn from so many different people. Like when you have that many hours with that many different people, you learn these fundamentals through just brute force experience. 6,852 hours of just learning the human condition from all different walks of life. And so you learn these patterns of, it's the people that are the most insecure that are flaunting the most. And so you don't have to play into it anymore. And once you don't play into it, you focus on the things that actually build success, which is the fundamentals of the compound effect. So for anyone who is fascinated by this concept, and this will speak to what you and a lot of people think we're nuts. Okay. The work ethic, the grit, the grind, all that stuff. They think we're nuts. And I understand, but let me explain something. This is the math and anyone can do this. Just don't do it in ChatGPT because it gets it wrong. Take a financial calculator and put $1 in it. Grow it by 0.1% per day. 0.1%. This is 1/10 of 1%, which means you just get a little bit better, a little bit smarter, a little bit move the needle. 0.1% per day for 50 years. It becomes $84 million. If you take weekends off, guess what it becomes? Do you want to guess?
Oh yeah. It's going to be once probably half that?
Way less. Yeah, way less.
Okay.
Okay,
yeah.
so if you do 50 years, 0.1% per day, which is what you've obviously done in life, metaphorically.
Yep.
It's $84 million. If you take weekends off, it's $439,000.
Wow.
$439,000. It's 1/191th. Meaning, if you don't take weekends off and I do, you have 191 times the outcome I do. Because that little bit of consistency, I have it relentless focus in my whiteboard right over here, relentless focus. Like you never take your eye off the ball. I always think of Forrest Gump with ping pong. You never take your eye off the ball. Never. Yeah, you can be present and get some R&R. 80-20. 20% of a 16-hour day is 3.1 hours. That's it. The point of R&R is to be more effective. The point of life is not to rest. The point of life is to see all you can become with all you have. I believe that so strongly. And by the way, I ask people, when were you the most fulfilled? Never once has anyone been, I was lazy and I was sloughing off my workouts. I wasn't really working hard. I wasn't focused. I wasn't using a calendar. No, every single time they're like, I was dialed in. I was going to the gym. I was killing it. I was doing meaningful progress toward meaningful goals is what fulfillment and happiness actually is. Not some top of some financial mountain, but like the point, chasing the dream and living the dream are the same thing. And when you learn that, you can stop worrying so much about just the outcomes. My life is better than it's ever been. Awesome. Love it. It's going to keep getting better, but I'm not going to step off the gas because I'm doing meaningful work that matters. And I know that that's what life is actually about. And fortunately, I woke up to that with a car accident. I just hope everyone else doesn't have to go in a car accident to wake up to that.
You talked about just the work ethic and the working. When I was 28 years old, I was helping this woman run her company. We built it from 1 to 5 million. I knew the operation side of it. I had no idea what the financial side of it was. And a pro forma showed up on my desk. A competitor wanted to finance me to start a company. And I didn't know what I was looking at. I knew the operation side. I had a reputation for it around the Northwest, but I didn't know what this part was. And I had this epiphany. And it was that I needed to shut up and listen, because there's this whole world out here that I didn't understand at 28 years old. And it was preceded by my first son being born. I was never going to have kids because of where I come from. I met my wife. And one second my wife was pregnant. And the next second she wasn't. And the second she wasn't pregnant, my life changed. And so my perspective changed. And all of a sudden I say it's the other half of being a man, because I wanted to go out and split the atom. I wanted to go out and crush the earth, because I wasn't going to have my child have the same life that I had. We went on to have 2 more. And so I call it a caveman. I'm a caveman. Every morning I get out willingly and I go march through that tall grass where something might grab me. I go walk through the forest where something might, hit me over the head, and I'm going to knock a pterodactyl over the head, and I'm going to drag it back to the cave, and my family's going to be comfortable and secure, and they're going to eat. I might be injured somewhat, and then I'm going to get up the next morning, and with a smile on my face and a song in my heart, I'm going to go back out and I'm going to go search for another pterodactyl, because for me, that is the ultimate living, the ultimate of living. That is what is being a man is getting out and suffering, in particular for me, for somebody else. So my children and my wife in this case, and I'm married 30 years later, and all my kids are still together with me. And I've just done very well by that. I broke that institutional, generational poverty that I come from. And so to hear you say that, I appreciate that very much, because I think that that is a message that not enough, in particular, young men hear.
Yeah, this is we're on a very similar mission, and for the young men out there that might be listening, again, I'm 37, I'm still young, and someone said this to me yesterday. I'll share this last piece. I was on a podcast with a woman named Tina, and I respect Tina a lot. She's awesome. She was in our group coaching program. She's awesome. She interviewed me and she said, "Yeah, well, maybe when you're my age, you'll start to slow down." And in my head, I said, "Not a fucking chance." Pardon my French if I'm not allowed to swear, by the way. Yeah. Okay.
No worries.
When I was a kid, I always said my career wouldn't even start until my 50s.
Yeah.
And again, maybe not everyone's wired that way. I'm just saying, you can't want level 10 results with level 2 effort.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going to happen. There's no such thing as something for nothing. Somebody's paying for that. And yeah, I think the people that are out, like you mentioned, I have a little different metaphor than the pterodactyl thing, but like the people that are climbing and grinding for their goals and dreams will always be the envy of the people sitting around feeling sorry for themselves. Who do you think was happy? You think Michael Jordan's more happy now, or when he was in his heyday grinding for the championships? Right. Definitely this one.
Yeah.
Definitely when he was struggling toward his dream. Like, I'm sure he's still happy now and whatever. I don't know, Michael, but it's a metaphor. Like, what if he realized while he was struggling that this was actually the best years of his life?
Mm-hmm.
What if he could realize that and not shirk from it, not wish it was easier, but just embrace it all and be like, I tell Kev, it's like, dude, we're 37. We're not slowing down now. Who slows down at 37?
Right.
Listen, that ain't it. Okay. I'm not interested. People are always trying to tell me like, well, maybe when you're 50, you'll slow. No, absolutely not. Like, I love my life and I love working hard. Like, since when in the 70s, wasn't hard work like a cool thing? Wasn't that cool? Right. What happened, man?
Right.
I don't know how old you are, but something wrong happened. I remember the 90s. Like, I feel like there was more reverence for achievement. What is going on here?
Yeah. There was also shame for failure. There was also judgment for failure. Right.
Yeah.
And this is in 80s. If you weren't pulling your weight, you weren't doing the things that you were supposed to be doing. There was a societal judgment that disappeared. It's almost become lionized now, right? That if you're struggling, that's become the new badge of honor, right? That you're struggling, or if you're not taking care of yourself or any of those things. Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think that that's been a change that happened probably post 2000.
Yeah. And I would love to, and again, I know we got to get out of here in 8 minutes, but I think I'm fascinated by that, because maybe we overswung and now we're swinging back. Like, what is the center point of that? You know, sometimes I wonder, because I had a mentor who was in his 70s, and he said, Alan, a lot of young men used to be like you.
Mm-hmm.
They were well kept, and they were excellence driven, and they wanted to achieve, and they got up early and stayed up late, and they were very responsible. I don't know. And again, rap and all that stuff. Maybe it became cool to be an F off now. Like it's just cool now to, honestly. I remember being in high school. You think I look young now. Imagine me as a prepubescent 14-year-old in high school. My stepdad just left, and I'll share this with everybody. I went from like Backstreet Boy looking bowl cut, got all the girls, to like a complete nobody. In high school, all the guys became men, and I was a little prepubescent boy. And I remember thinking, I'm competing with this dude who looks like Chris Hemsworth, and I'm 14, and the teacher wants this guy. I can't compete with this guy. He can dunk a basketball. He's a stud, and I'm this little prepubescent boy still. And I remember thinking, and he had this attitude, right? He had this attitude of, I don't care about school, and I don't care about working hard, and I'm just talented. And I remember thinking, that's a losing strategy. Mm-hmm. I remember thinking, in 20 years, it's not going to be close. And it's not. He actually was quite a bully to me. I've run into him since. He looks like hell. And now I'm twice his size.
Yeah, right.
Which it was an interesting moment, because it's like, hey, a little different now, right? And I didn't, but I wanted to punch him in the face because he was so unkind to me. But I just was like, it's not worth it. But my point is your attitude. Like, I'll share this last piece too. I was at Subway not long ago with my beautiful girlfriend and future wife, Emilia. She's an entrepreneur. We own 3 companies between the two of us, and we work every day. I don't know why we're alone in that, but we work every day. Okay. So we're at Subway, and there's this entitled person behind the counter who literally is bragging about how he's not going to pick up the phone. He makes the subs terrible. He's not grateful for his job at all. He's making minimum wage, which in Massachusetts is more than most people make in the freaking world, by the way. Mm-hmm. He's young. He's not good at what he does. He won't pick up the phone. It took him 50 minutes to make 2 subs. And I remember thinking, like, I should call your boss and have you fired. Like, you should be fired. There's probably another high school kid who needs this job that would do a 10 times better job. I have people that I've worked with that would do a 10 times better job for 1/10 the money. Yes. And this dude's in trouble. And I saw this kid's future, and I was like, you're so screwed. You're screwed. Mm-hmm. That attitude ain't going to work. The business owners like you would never hire a little shit like that. And they don't know it. They don't realize it. It's like, dude, you are so entitled, and life has not smacked you down yet. Like, my birth father died. My stepdad left. I lost 3 families by the time I was 14. It was adverse. There was a couple good things, but most of it was atrocious. That ended up being a strength. Right. That ended up being, go ahead.
I always say, Alan, that I am who I am in spite of where I come from, and because of where I come from.
Yeah, it's a good one.
So all of the things that happened to me, I use things that I learned getting up after I've been stabbed. I've been beaten within an inch of my life. I've been robbed more times than I can count. I've been in 100 fights. All of those things, terrible, right? Jerry, how'd you ever survive it? I use all of those losses, and I combine them with all of the wins in spite of and because of, and that's how I got where I am. I want to go back real quick in the last few minutes that we have and talk about, you said older, you're 37, I'm 57. Okay. And I think that retirement is a social construct post 1913 Fed Reserve being invented, and then with the advent of the Social Security and minimum wage, all of a sudden we're going to start retiring at 65. You're going to sit in a cubicle. You're going to work for 40 years. You're going to get a gold watch, and then you're going to be put out to pasture. Before that, it didn't exist. It's like breakfast, right? 3 meals a day. Breakfast is the most important. It's all marketing. It's all a social construct. And so I think that anybody, if you're a caveman and you want to succeed, using my example, we hunt until the last day. Mm-hmm. And we're going to live a successful life. We're going to be healthy until that last day. They've gone out and looked at these in the Amazon, and these hunter-gatherers that are still there today. And the chief is 82 years old, and he's out leading the hunt. And then he just doesn't get up in the morning, right? He just doesn't get up. And they go in, and he died. And I think that's the way that we are supposed to work. I think that's the way that we are supposed to go, and not kick back. I mean, the stories are legion of, 67-year-olds that retired at 65, healthy, active, working full-time jobs, and they're dead 2 years later.
Well,
why
purpose,
is that?
Right?
Why
Purpose.
is that a thing? It's because we're doing things that are unnatural. Okay, 2 minutes here, speed round.
Yep.
Just quick answers to a couple of questions here. We'll see where this goes. Discipline or motivation?
Discipline.
Yeah, I agree. Therapy or mentorship?
Mentorship.
External validation or internal peace?
Internal peace.
Hustle culture, is it helpful or harmful?
Helpful.
One word for real success?
Reaching your full potential.
Potential. Yeah, I would agree with that. As we go out here, tell the folks how they can get a hold of you. Tell them about the website. And real quick, again, just give us the short version of what it is you're trying to do and who your customer is, who you're trying to reach.
Yeah, the people that I work with, I have it written right over here, my absolutely people and my absolutely not. We'll talk about my absolutely. The second on my absolutely not, by the way, is bullies, people who put others down to feel bigger and better about themselves. I realize in hindsight, I didn't say that earlier. My absolutely people, high humility, high work ethic, high improvement orientation. I care more about your success than your feelings. I care more about you reaching your full potential. No one else cares. They even like it when you're less. I don't. I want you to reach your full potential. That's what I'm here for. Next Level University podcast. You mentioned 2,300 episodes. It's success and personal development in your pocket every day from anywhere on the planet, completely free. Next Level You. Not Next Level Alan, not Next Level Kevin, but Next Level You. There's always a next level. No matter how much you've achieved, you can always keep reaching for more, for your full potential. Then you have more to give. The website is nextleveluniverse.com. So Next Level University podcast, spelled just like it sounds. nextleveluniverse.com is the website. Everything's on there. We've got free stuff. We've got paid stuff. We've got a productivity journal. We got all kinds of stuff on there. And yeah, if you have high humility, high work ethic, and a high improvement orientation, and you haven't shut this off yet, you might be a good fit.
And is that the best way to get a hold of you?
Best way to get a hold of me is Instagram.
Okay.
We have a fitness group called the Next Level Fitness Accountability Group. I think we got 56 people in there. It's on fire every day. We're doing a 10-pound and 10-week challenge right now. My Instagram is all fitness now. And honestly, it's not about fitness. It's about the work ethic and the mindset and the starting your day off, like putting in the work. And I think that we've really lost that. So fitness is a metaphor. It's also my favorite thing in the entire world. So DM me on Instagram. It will actually be me. It won't be my EA. It won't be AI. It will be me. DM me on Instagram. That will actually be me. Just provide context because obviously we all get a lot of spam.
I mean, I think that clearly we're 20 years apart, but we were separated at birth. My friend, you have a very old soul. 4 years ago, I was been healthy my whole life. I had heart issues pop up. I lost 110 pounds in 8.5 months, and I'm in the best shape of my life at 6'4", 240 pounds. Then at 57 years old, and I haven't been my whole life. I couldn't be healthier. I think health is down, or success is downstream of health, and so I think that's a critical juncture for people trying to do what they do. So I've enjoyed this conversation. We could do it for another hour. I feel like we haven't even touched the conversation that we could have. I really appreciate you coming on, Alan. Thank you,
Jerry. Thank you. And I appreciate you. We're on very similar missions to try to get back to center here on all of the stuff in the 21st century, that candy content. So thank you for having me. I appreciate it.